For today's lesson, we need to take a look at how to add and subtract fractions. We're not going to go too far on the subtraction side, but we'll also touch on how to handle mixed numbers. The very first thing that you should remember is that the bottom number, called the denominator of a fraction, should be the same. So if both of your fractions have the same denominator, or the same bottom number, you can just add the top number. So the bottom number is going to stay exactly what it was, the 6, and then we just add the numerator, the top number there, the 1 and the 4 would equal 5. Same thing's happening right over here. We have a common denominator, the 3, the bottom number, on both fractions, so we can just leave it as a 3. And then we take a look at the top number, the numerator, and we add that up to make 2. So 1/3 plus 1/3 equals 2/3. Let's try this one. Because the denominators are the same, we'll keep it the same. And we don't worry about the fact that this is an improper fraction over here where the top number is bigger than the bottom number. We don't worry about that. We just know that, hey, they have common denominators, so we can add the two numerators, the 4 and the 1, and it equals 5. Now, at this point, in 7th grade, you should be able to take this improper fraction, that's where the top number is bigger than the bottom, and turn it into a mixed number. How many times does 3 go into 5? It goes in once, so it would equal 1. That's what this 1 is doing right here. And you take your remainder, the 2, the leftover, and that becomes the top of your new fraction, and you just keep that 3 sitting right there. So 1 2/3. For subtraction, we still need to make sure we have the same denominator, okay? So we'll go ahead and write this down for the answer, 5 on the bottom. And instead of adding, we'll just subtract. 4 minus 1 is 3, so 3/5. Same thing here. Common denominators, that's the first thing that you have to check when you're adding, subtracting. Unfortunately, it's rarely going to happen though, right? Because it always seems like they're different denominators. But when they are, you can do this. 7 minus 6 is 1. So there's our answer, 1/8. So what do we do when the denominators are not the same? Well, basically, we need to turn them into the same number. And the first thing I do is take a look at your two denominators. I've got a 3 on the first fraction. I've got a 2 on the second fraction. And what I say is see if you can change the bottom, the smaller denominator into the bigger denominator. Can I change 2 into 3 by multiplying it by a number? And unfortunately, we're not able to do that. So what happens is that I would recommend that you take the left denominator and just multiply the right fraction by it, okay? So that gets us 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 3 is 6. So what we've done is we've turned this 1/2, this blue fraction, into the 3/6 down here. But this is not a 6 on the first fraction. So what I would recommend there is we take this 2 right here, the bottom number of the right fraction, and multiply the left fraction by it, top and bottom, and we get 4/6. Keep the sign the same, it's a plus sign. So since we have common denominators now, they're both 6s, I can put a 6 for the answer, and then I can come back and add the numerators, the top numbers. 4 plus 3 is 7. Same thing again, it's an improper fraction, so basically we need to simplify it into a mixed number. 6 goes in once with 1 left over, and keep that denominator. Now, this is again the first thing that I want you to do. When you see two fractions that you need to add, I need you to make sure that you go to the smaller denominator and go, can I turn this into whatever is on the other side? Yeah, I can do that. I can times it by 2. And so that equals 2/8. And so we're left with 1/8 plus 2/8. So now we have the common denominators. We'll keep that the same. And we just add the numerators. Last thing that we need to do, and we're down to just 3 problems left. What happens when we get mixed numbers? Well, the first thing that I would say is if we're adding, we can just go ahead and add. But I would probably write out my fractions underneath, so that way I've got a little bit of room to work with. That way I'm not crowded by the whole number. Don't forget it's there though. I don't have common denominators. I can't turn 5 into 8. So I'm going to take this 8 right here. I'm going to multiply this fraction by 8. I'm going to take this 5 over here and multiply this fraction by 5. And let's see what we get. We get 24 over 40, and we get 5 over 40. We've got the plus sign there. Just don't forget your whole numbers. So 2 plus 1 is 3, and 24 plus the 5 is 29. And because we had common denominators, we just let it sit at 40. And I can't simplify this answer, so there's your final answer. What do we do with subtraction? Well, essentially, the same thing. It's just instead of adding, we're going to subtract. We've got 2 fractions, and we need to see if they have common denominators. And unfortunately, they don't, but I check the smaller denominator, and I go, can I change this into my other denominator? Yeah, I can turn it into 9 by just multiplying it by 3. So multiply both parts of that fraction, and we get 6/9. And don't forget the whole numbers. Pull those on down, okay? So 16 minus 2 is 14, and 8 minus 6 is 2. And again, the denominators are the same, so we just let them sit. So that's basically how we handle mixed numbers and fractions, adding and subtracting. That's actually the last problem we're going to do. I was just going to say that, next time we do run into a situation where even though it happens in subtraction, they have common denominators. I can't say 1 minus 3. Not particularly, not ready for that. So normally what we do is we say, hey, go divide, or excuse me, not divide, go borrow from the 16, and I'll show you that in the next lesson.